he's done such great thinking in terms of building design systems, and he was kind enough to accept our invite today and do this session for all of us. Despite his really busy schedule, he's been doing sessions in the mornings as well, teaching people how to use Figma and Webflow. So thanks, Karan, for accepting our invite and helping us grow this community better. So we can get started, and thanks for everyone who've joined the session today. Really nice to see so many people who want to learn and grow. Harsh, do you want to say something?
I think we can start. We are right on time.
Great. Okay.
Yeah.
So if you have any questions, please post it in the chat. I'm guessing Karan will take halts in between and address your questions. He's solid with his planning. I'm guessing there won't be any hiccups during the session. If you need anything, Karan, please ping us. Just call us out. We will be there for you in any case.
Sure.
And Harsh, I hope you started the recording as well.
The recording has been started.
Great.
Yeah. We are 22 right now. Yeah.
Awesome. Thanks, Karan. Thanks, Harsh. I'll be a fly on the wall now. Bye.
Sure. Thank you so much for the great introduction. I want to thank you both, first of all, for having me here. Just a brief introduction. I am a freelance designer based in Delhi, and I started using Figma back 1 year back.
Karan, sorry to interrupt. I think there is a little bit break. Sound is cracking. Can you check?
Now?
Yeah, it's good. Yeah.
Okay. I think I changed my mic input. So I'm a freelance designer based in New Delhi, and I started teaching Figma and also started learning Figma side by side last year, back in April. So that is when I started using Figma, and I had a background in Adobe XD and Sketch, so I was able to latch on to it very quickly, and I thought that why not teach it to people and share my knowledge about it. So I started conducting sessions on YouTube and even on Zoom and Google Meet first. So I have a few videos. If you search for Karan Kapoor UX or anything related to Figma, Karan Kapoor Figma, you'll be able to see me on YouTube. I have a lot of videos. You'll be able to find everything that I cover here. And you'll see that this is a compilation of all those things that I have done before, and this is the best of the lot. Okay, so I'm really excited to share some things with you. And if you have any questions, please write them in the chat. I'll address them as and when you write those questions. Okay, so I'll start. First of all, I'll introduce what a design system is. All right, and this presentation deck, I'll send it in the chat after presenting it, so that you all can refer to the links that I have referred to. I have attached all the links that I have referred to during the creation of this presentation. Okay, so let us understand what a design system is first. So it is a collection or a set of guidelines, components, documentation, and other resources that everyone in the organization can use and can get on the same page with. Okay, so for example, a design system must be easily understood by a designer, manager, developer, copywriters, and other stakeholders. So what it means is that it should have all the resources that are required for a developer, for a designer, for a manager, and for everyone involved in the process. And a design system is not a one-person job or a two-person job. It is the job of one whole organization, and everyone should be on the same page while using it. Okay, so first of all, I'd like to clear out some myths. Okay, so if you think that it is a one-time job or a task that once I have made a design system, it will last for say 10 years, 20 years, that is not going to happen. As platforms evolve, as mobile screens or desktop screens, different size screens evolve, you'll have to iterate on your design system. So it is an iterative task or an iterative project. Okay, so the second thing is that people think it limits your creative freedom, but it doesn't actually do that. It lets you think freely for a really long time and then implement on things. Okay, and the third and the biggest myth is that it is a collection of components that you can use. So components are just one part of it, but it contains much more than components and libraries, UI kits, and things like that. And the last myth is that it is all encompassing. So no design system can ever be all encompassing. Only the guidelines can be used for replicating what the guidelines mean and replicating the systems that have been put into the guidelines. Okay, so I'll tell you the truths about it. Okay, so it is an ever evolving main project. So this is a dedicated effort of many people across many months that lead into creating a design system. And one thing that it does is that people say it limits your creative freedom, but it brings so much visual consistency and hierarchy in your system, in your designs, that all the trade-offs are just they just vanish after a point. Okay, and components are just a part of it, and it is not the entire design system, and it is specific to a product. You cannot make a design system which encompasses all the products. So every product has its own target audience, it has its own constraints, so it cannot be fit into all the products. All right, so these are some truths and the myths. Now let us go into the details of a design system. Right, okay, so first of all, let us discuss what are the elements of a design system. Okay, so first of all is the voice and tone. Like, how do you want people to feel when they look at your designs, or how do you want the other stakeholders to kind of act on those design decisions? So those are some guidelines that you set at the start. So on the right you see guidelines for voice and tone. So for writing, this is the Atlassian design system. I have linked it in this link that I have. I'll share it with you. You can refer to it after the presentation. So they have writing guidelines that they'll use inclusive language. They will use language and grammar which has conventions to make your writing clear, consistent, and localizable. So when you are scaling it for different countries, it might have different languages. And even within one country, countries such as India, where we have so many languages, localization becomes very important if you want to adapt it to the local audience and if you want to expand worldwide. All right, second is the components library, something that you might have all heard of and all know of also. So components library is a toolkit basically that helps you create designs faster, create screens faster. Okay, but that is only one part of it. Once you have created the screens, you will have something to write on it, you will have some interactions on it. So there have to be some foundational principles on motion, on writing, and everything else. And after that, once you have designed, you need to hand it off to your developers. So development framework is very important. I won't be going on to that part because it will take a lot of time. I'll be covering the components library aspect today, and I'll also be giving away a resource that I have created. And the last part is documentation. So I can't stress enough that how important documentation is in a design system, because it is the living proof of your design system, that if anyone wants to use your design system, they will come to the documentation and immediately know that this is how they have to use the components, this is how they have to use the language, this is how they have to use the motion, they have to use the motion principles and typography and things like that. So these are the elements of a design system. And yeah, the next thing, as you can see, that the principles, foundation principles, should reflect across all the aspects of a design system. So this is an excerpt from a design system by a travel based company or a company that deals in adventure travel and accessories for adventure travelers. So they have these principles. So the design system should be inspiring. Okay, so it should be inclusive. So human is another aspect of the design system, that they want to focus on people, and then it should be purposeful. Okay, so everyone who looks at the design system should feel these emotions, or all the designs that you have after creating a design system should evoke these emotions naturally. All right, so now on to the next slide. If you have any questions, please leave them in the chat. I feel that I have covered a lot of it, and yeah, this will help you. This will help you clear out a few things if you're not clear on a few things. Okay, so if you have any questions, leave them in the chat. I'll be happy to address them. Okay, so now I'll be moving on to the components library aspect. So this is what I have been working on extensively in the past 1 year, or even 2 years for that matter. I started learning about it almost 2 years ago when I used to work full time. Okay, so components library is a collection of text, colors, components like buttons, text field, also components like sliders, your switch buttons, and things like that. So they help you design screens, and that's the end of it. So a components library will help you design screens. And building on the design system, you have voice and tone. You can write how you want to write text, and you can follow some motion design principles in that screen. So what a components library is, that it has a foundation. Okay, so foundation is very important to it. So what you do is you set all the things that you would be requiring in different components, in different text, and across different screens. So what you do is you set a text hierarchy, and you set a color palette, and then you set iconography. So what it helps you with is that it helps you apply permutations and combinations and create different components. So if you want to create a button, it will be a combination of your color palette and your text typography system. So that is how you combine different elements and create bigger components. So if you have to create a drop down, it would comprise of a color, which everything in a drop down will have, an icon, and text. So these are three elements that will combine to form a bigger component, such as a drop down. All right, so I'll just show you some principles that a components library is based upon. Okay, so this is a atomic design principle by, there's a book by Brad Frost. So if you want to go and check it, go ahead. So what he has said in that book is that instead of treating each page individually, we'll design for the system and not for a page. Okay, so how he kind of deciphered this by iterating a lot and working on websites, and then coming on to a conclusion that every page can be broken down into simple forms. So the simple forms can be called atoms. So atoms can contain your colors, your type, your icons, and then when you combine either of these two, right, in any order, or all these three, they combine to form a molecule. So if you see on this page, I'll just make it a bit bigger for you to see. I'll just shrink down the text a bit. Right, I'll just shrink down text a bit. Yeah. So what he has said is that whenever you create smaller atoms, they combine to form bigger molecules. So molecule in this case can be your buttons, your text fields, your sliders, your progress bars, or even for that matter, these big menu items. Okay, so once you have designed those molecules by combining the smaller elements like text and color, you get onto your organisms. So organisms are nothing but a combination of these molecules. So for example, I use this icon, right? This icon and these 5 icons. I want a navigation bar out of these 5 icons. So these 5 icons will act as atoms. And when you use the icon with text, it acts as a molecule. And when you use it inside a page, it acts. When you use it inside a navigation bar, it acts as a organism. And when you combine these smaller molecules, these smaller organisms, such as one of them can be your navigation bar, one of them can be your menu, one of them can be your bottom navigation, and one of them can be your header or your hero section. So once you combine them, you come up with templates. So what templates are that? If you want to create a login form, so these are the elements that I would want in that. So for example, you would want 2 text fields, 1 button. So this is a combination that you have created, and wherever you want to have some kind of authentication, you put that over there. So those are your templates, or these are sometimes also called patterns. And once you combine different patterns or different templates, you come up with pages. So page has so treat them as your bones. These treat them as your bones, and treat these two as a structure. So these final 2 elements, these give a structure to your whole design system or your components library when you build it. All right, so this is the approach that is followed in the atomic design approach by Brad Frost. So this is a very common approach, and all the design systems that you would come across will follow this approach. All right. So here are some examples. So if you were to create this button has a text field, which is our text style, and it has a background color, which is our color style. And similarly, you can see that here are some icons. So this is a switch which contains your colors, and then your different, it just contains a color and a shape. And here is your text field. It contains 2 text layers, 3 text fields, and it contains your error color and your background color and your blacks and your whites. So this is how you combine different items and you create a components library. So what how do you create a component library? So you start by naming different components at different levels, and then you diverge from there. That okay, this is the component, I want these many variants for it, and you define them at levels. So I'll just show you how you can do that, right? How to use a component library, let me show you, and you can also try it over here when I give you the slides. So before I go ahead, are there any questions from the chat?
I think we don't have a question till now. You can continue.
Okay, sure.
Maybe at the last we can check. Yeah, I think we have a question from
Jofrin. Yeah, so components add up to create template. So template is not a component. Template is just, you know, a combination of the smaller level, components and an organism, if I were to say. So you don't need to create templates as such, but those act as guidelines. So if you have a login page template, that would be great for people who want to create a login page very quickly. And this is how you judge a design system. So there are some success metrics that you can attach to a design system, that if you say, if you were to design a screen, right? So if you were to design a screen, it takes you 5 hours, okay, only to design a screen, and then it takes you 5 or 6 more hours. And what state do we have to design system? Lo-fi, what state? I see design system has a structure first. So you can define, you have to gather all the information. No, not, or you have to gather all the information and then decide that if you can create a scalable design system about it or not. So there are some success metrics on it, that, or some, you know, needs and requirements. So not a lot of companies have a design system, but because they have, you know, structure set and it is working for them. But when your company grows to such an extent, or when your organization grows to such an extent that it takes you 5 hours to design a screen, 5 hours to test it, and then another 5 to 10 hours to develop it, then I think the trade-offs are too high, and then there is a team dedicated to creating a design system and reduce the time from 5 hours, say, to 10 minutes or 2 minutes even in some cases, which are some of the best design systems in the world, have this ability to be able to be designed, to design screens in just 2 minutes or 3 minutes. So that is how the need of the design system happens, right? Every, as I mentioned, every product should not, I mean, does not have, and even if you require it, then you make it. A lot of companies, the big companies that you see in India today, don't have a design system, and it's working fine for them, because they don't have a lot of constraints, like they have to design for mobile, they have to design for web, they have to design for TV, which is another platform that has come in with the OTT platforms. So there are some constraints and some requirements that lead you to design a design system, and the more extensive it is and the more documented it is, the better it is. All right. Okay, so I'll just show you how you can use a components library, since I just discussed that. Right, I'll be sending the link of this components library that I have. I made this components library to help people who want to, design faster and not think about a lot of things. I have dropped the link in the chat. What you can do is you can go to this link, and then you can duplicate this file for your own use. Okay, so I'll show you how to use it, and then I'll show you how to create it. Okay. So I'll create a new page, and then click on frame, and then select the iPhone 11 frame. Okay, so what elements do you require in a screen? So for example, I'm creating a login screen. All right. So what elements I would require is, I would require a status bar, which is the bar that shows time. Okay, so this is my status bar. I have it as a component, so I just drag and drop it inside my design. And then I want a heading and a subheading. So I have named it as pair. Okay, so text pair is the labeling. So you'll be able to see that I have divided it into different text sizes. So this is the largest one. I think this is the largest one. Yeah, this is the largest one. And then you can write welcome back here if someone is logging in. and then you can add, please enter your details. Okay. So even here, there is one thing I forgot to tell you about, that whenever you are creating a design system or a components library, a spacing guide is very important. That whenever you use two components together or whenever you lay out a screen, what spacing you want in between all the elements. So I follow a spacing guide of 8-point grid, which is the material design spacing guide, which allows you to, which says that every spacing and every spacing between individual elements and otherwise should be a multiple of 8 or multiple of 4. So 4 is 0.5 times the spacing guide minimum value. So now I have this as my these two component set. What I'll do is I'll just add a layout grid here, so I can restrict my elements from overflowing in the screen. Right, so this is again a material design guideline that I'm using. I'll give it a margin and I'll give it a gutter. So gutter is the distance between these two columns, and margin is the distance between the screen and the these end of the start of this first column and the end of the first column and the screen. Okay, so I am able to set it easily inside it. Okay, so it is 14 for now. I'll just push it 2 pixels down, 2 points down, and then adjust it inside it. Okay, so the next thing that I need for a login form is a text field. So I'll just call a text field here and put it inside this layout. I'll fit it to whatever size I want, and another text field which will ask for your, so the first text field can be your name. So this icon is also a component, so as I've combined smaller components, I'll be able to edit it very easily. So I have it as person, I think account, yeah, account, and name. I will add this as a placeholder, and here I will add email, and then I will add a button. Okay, so I have a few types of buttons. So button, so you search for button, and here is a button. So whatever type of button you want, if you want an icon in it or not, if you want the state. Okay, so I will add a login or right. So once you enter your details, you can log in, and yeah, this is how I have stacked it. So this is the part where you got to know that how to create a screen out of using some components. And now I'll show you how you can create these components. All right. Yeah, margin and gutter, I'll just explain it again. So if I were to tell you, this is, if you create a frame, right? You create a frame and then you bring in your layout grid. If you click on this, menu icon here and go on to columns. So I follow the material design guidelines. So it says that for this breakpoint, you have four columns, and in that screen, the margin is the spacing on the left and right, and the gutter is the spacing between individual columns. So if I make it 40, you'll see that the spacing is 40 from left and right, and the gutter, that is the space between these two, is 16. So I'll just show you with the shape. So if I make a shape between these two columns, it has a width of 16. If I make a shape between the edge and the column, it has a width of 40. So margin is what space you leave from the left and right, and column, so the spacing between columns is what you call gutter. So how you would lay out your elements now is that if you have two cards, you will lay them out in this way. This is how you will lay them out, and the spacing between them is 16, right? So this is how you lay out your different elements. So we have set for a component library, we have set our components, we have set a spacing system. So each of the spacing between the elements is, so this is 16, this is 40, again this is 16, and this is 16 again. All right, so we have set a screen in no time using a components library. Okay, so I will just show you. Yeah, I'll just share a resource with you. Okay, so you can, I refer to that resource. I refer to that resource if I have to use grids and I have to use spacing. Okay, so this is the resource. I'll just send it in the chat. So Yeah, I'm just sending this in the chat so that you can refer to it and you can follow it. Yeah, there are two ways actually. You can use an exponential spacing system in which you have what should be gutter margin add for a 4-column grid. So I just told you, if you refer to the resource that I just sent, yeah, gutter spacing is 16, margin is 40. So it depends on which system you're following. So I follow the guidelines of material design. All right, and it says, let me just share the screen and show you. Okay, I'll share my entire screen and show you. Okay, so this is the guide that material design provides for iOS breakpoints. So since I used an iOS screen, it has shown me what breakpoint or if the orientation is portrait, and the columns that I should use, the number of columns, and the gutter and the margin that I should use in that case. So this is a guide that you can refer to. As I mentioned, documentation is very important for any design system, and material design is a very extensive source of documentation that you can refer to for almost anything that you design. So like it shows you here that how it expands for different breakpoints, right? So till the breakpoint of an iPhone Plus, the same spacing guide is used or the same grid is used. And after that, when you go on to an iPad, the columns increase to 8, but the spacing remains the same. Okay, right? So there are guidelines. You can use any guideline from any source that you want to, refer to. There is no hard and fast rule with that. So now that I've shown you how to follow these conventions, I'll show you how to create some components as well. Okay, I'll use some things in. Oh, sorry, I think I have to share another tab. Right, so I'll share this tab again. Right, so I'll show you how I have created these components using the smaller elements like colors and everything else. Okay, so I'll just show you one thing here. Okay, so I have these different sizes of text that I have first defined. So you can use any typography guideline. So I use the typography guideline of Gojek. So right, Asphalt is the name of the design system of Gojek, and they follow this typography guideline. I found it to be very useful and also fitting to whatever I design. Right, I'll just send you the link in the chat. So this is the guideline I follow, the link that I sent you. And based on that, I have set this typography guideline. And for setting up a typography, this is only for mobile. This doesn't extend to web. So this library that I shared you is only for mobile, right? So here I have defined them in increasing numbers of, in ascending order of and increasing in hundreds. Okay, so the smallest text size that we have is 9 pixel, and the largest we have is 900. Okay, which is from 100 to 900. So why I have named it in such a way is that if you say try to change it to 28 in the future, so you won't have to change its naming if you say name it text regular / 28 pixels. So if you change the largest text size to 28 later on or 32 later on, you won't have to change its naming. So people would know that, okay, the largest size, no matter what it is, I will refer to it as text regular 900. So we abstract the actual numbers by naming them in such a way, and this is the naming system that Zomato follows in their sushi design system. So this I have referred it from that. And once you have set a hierarchy, you can set up different weights of the same text sizes so as to establish some difference in the hierarchy and to establish some so if you refer to some of these if you refer to this Figma file itself, so you have the largest font size as the file name, and then you have different weights of this small font. Even though these will have the same font size, cover, how to use, layers, assets, but they have a different font to establish a difference between them and to establish focus of your eye. Okay, so if they want you to concentrate on this, they will add a different color to it, and yeah, so on and so forth. So once you have defined this, I have a plugin suggestion for you, which is by the name of Styler plugin. So if you use the Styler plugin, what it will help you with is that, so for now I have them attached to textiles. I'll deattach them. So what it helps you with is that once you have defined your textiles, right, it will help you to create textiles. So what you would do is you would go here, you would add a textile, you would name it, and then you would can do it for all the other textiles. So what it helps you with is that it takes the layer name that you have and then creates a textile with that name. So for example, styler, I will say generate styles. Okay, so it has taken the layer names that I have. So as you can see that it has updated all the 18 textiles. So since I had already created them, it is showing me that it has updated the existing ones. Okay, so one more good thing about it is that if you go to any file and if you want to copy its styles, so this is this is a small hack. Yeah, I'll send you the link, just a second. These are some of the plugins, okay, that you can use or refer to. I think I opened it in a different window. Right, so I'll just drop the link of this plugin in the chat. Styler plugin, you can install it from this link. Okay, so this is a small hack that I'm telling you about. So if you have this plugin installed, so you can see that I have all these color styles and all these text styles defined for this file. Okay, so if you want to copy these styles, what you can do is go to that file, go to plugins, go to the Styler plugin, and then click on extract styles. So what it will do is it will extract all the styles that are being used in that particular file, and when you bring into your file, so it automatically has the name of the name of these styles attached to that frame. And once you select all of those styles and copy them, so I'll copy it in the same file, and if you copy it to your own file and you then again select them all, go to Styler plugin and go to, I have so many plugins installed. If you go to generate styles, so it will generate the styles out of these styles that you just copied. So it's showing me no changes because I'm copying it in the same file. So this is a very good hack, I would say, or a technique that I would say to copy a file's style. So if you duplicate any file, for example, if you duplicate, for example, my file, and you take it to your own file, if you go on to my file and you have duplicated it, now you want to see what styles I'm using, what colors I'm using, you just create a new page, go on to plugins, click on styler and click on extract styles and copy it in your file, select all of them and click on generate styles. So in 2 clicks you are able to copy styles from one file and use it as your own. So it will really help you to focus on other aspects rather than just focusing on colors. So this is one thing that I would suggest. And if you want to, so typography I have told you about. Now let us come on to how to set colors. So one thing that has worked for me and I still use it is that I create some colors. So if I have created these 4 colors, okay, and then I will assign them functions in my design. So for now I have used the blue color as my primary color. Okay, why I have not named it blue, why I have not named it primary color, because say tomorrow my brand language or my brand identity changes and I want to use a purple color. Sorry, so I'll have to change the primary color, and say for example I'm using the blue color, which is also my primary color, for information, for conveying information. All right, so that would create a very big disconnect between adding new colors and using the existing colors. Okay, so this is how so this is something that has worked for me. So I name them according to their general use. So yellow 300, yellow 400 according to the intensity, and the lightest one I name as yellow 100, and I leave some some empty numbers in between. So if I have to include more colors in the future, I can include them as yellow 200, yellow 300, yellow 400. Right, so Yeah, auto layout and breakpoints. Yeah, I'll share that. Just wait out a few minutes. Once you set these, then it will be. Yeah, so that there are that is the gray hierarchy that I have said. So in any design that you see, there is more hierarchy in the. So these are called the muted colors. So this is something that has worked for me. This is not a universal thing that can work for you as well. So if you refer to the material design guideline, they have the same number of shades for everything, but my use case is not as vast as material design or as any other design library that you might find out there. So to adjust to my use case and my understanding of colors, I have used only these 6 colors of gray. So these will convey different hierarchy in text and different hierarchy or different states of, say, a button. If a button is blue in color in its active state, it can be this gray 400 when it is in inactive state or disabled state. Okay, so this is why I have done it, and why I have used 3 colors. So the this line of colors that you see, this can be used as the primary state. Okay, so when you don't hover on the particular element, this can be used as the primary state, and these 4 colors can be used on hover state or selected state and things like that. And these light colors can be used as muted backgrounds. So when you have to create some kind of a box, you can add this color. So once you have a color set, you can add this color and you can write something on top of it. Okay, so text, and then you can write something on top of it. It is just to differentiate it from other elements, and I will attach the blue color now. So you can see that it is different from the white that we would have created. Okay, so the text hierarchy is, I want to keep the text hierarchy very strong, and the other colors are used for different states and as primary color and things like that. So there is no right and wrong in it, but it depends on your use case. Okay, so I use this convention again, 100, 200, 300, 400. So this is the convention that is used by Lift design system. So I'll just share the link in the chat once. There is a very good article by Lift, and there is one resource that I would also like to share. It is by the name of Colorbox. So I think they have updated it to a new version, but the older version is what works the best. Right, so I'll share a link where you can generate these colors. Okay, I'll just share my screen as well on those on that resource, and how you can use that resource to kind of generate more colors. Okay, so let me just stop the screen share, and I'll just share my entire screen now, so I don't have to keep switching it on and off. So this is the resource that I'm talking about. So once you come onto this resource, you can generate different shades. Okay, different shades based on some logic. Okay, so if you have to create if you want to use the primary color as this color that you have here, let me copy its hex code. Okay, I'm copying its hex code, then I'll put it over here. Okay, so there is one issue with it, that when you use it, then you'll have to also see what the hex code is, not the hex code, the HSB value, so that you can define it in a very good manner. So if you go to HSB, so 214, 93 and 72, just remind me if I forget. Okay, so you'll have to, I have already forgotten, 214, 93, 72, right? So you can set it at 214 here. So this can be at 214, 215. So this is the hue, that the basic hue that will be there in all the colors. Okay, so 215 again. And what saturation you want at the start? I think it's not reacting to the changes. I'll just see what is wrong. And then you can also set what brightness you want in all of these. I think there is something wrong. I think I locked one of these colors. Yeah, I logged it at that color. So you can see whatever hierarchy you want and whatever logic you want. So I'll start, the starting brightness can be very light, 100, and the ending brightness can be around 50. Okay, and you can reduce the number of colors that you want. So for example, if I'm using grays, what I'll have to do is I'll reduce the saturation on on starting and ending, and then just decrease the brightness. So you can see this curve is being used. You can use a different curve and come up with different combinations. So this is what I use to generate, very simple color palettes, generate documentation of design systems. So my favorite, I used to document back in the company that I worked at. So it's named as Zero Height. You go on to Zero Height. You can also do it in Notion. Notion is a great place to document anything. So if you go on to Zero Height, you can see that it provides you everything that you need for designing your design systems. Right? If you see how it will also give you the code for, if you put in the code, it will also show you interactive elements. So Zero Height is what I used to work with. I haven't documented anything in a long time. And you can see on the left hand side, it will also give you these predefined panels that you can get ready to, which are ready to go with. Okay. So that is my tool of preference, if you were to ask me. Yeah. So I'll just move back to it. Now that you have set a color palette, the same thing I'll use. Since I already have it set, I'll go to Styler plugin, and just make sure that your layer names are correct according to the color. Otherwise, it will map it to the wrong layer or wrong color. Right. So now that we have these things set, what we'll do is we'll just start with some auto layout thing. Okay. I'll not use any shapes. So this is auto layout has introduced a shapeless design. Shapeless design feature, or shapeless design method. So if you have to, I'll start with the smallest of components. So I have a lot of components set here. So I'll start with the smallest of components first of all. Okay. I'll do it in this file instead of doing in that file to avoid repetition. So now I'll just add some text. I'll say button. Okay. I'll say button, and then I'll click on Shift A. So Shift A is the shortcut that you use. Shift plus A. I don't know what the shortcut is on, what the equivalent of shift is on Mac. Okay, so now that you have defined it, you can attach your text to a text style that you already defined. I'm using bigger sizes so as to show it on the screen, but you can use any of the styles that I referred to here. Okay, so these are the styles you can refer to, or let me just create it here for as an example. Sorry. So I'll write some text, say button here, and then I'll press Shift and A. So it has automatically introduced padding on all the sides, and you can see I will center it in the button. So whenever I increase the button size, it will center in that button. Okay. So now I will have to follow the spacing system. So my spacing, this fits right in my spacing system, and a lot of companies use it. That is why they have kept it as default. And then what I would not go in depth with this. So what you can do is you can set it to either fill container. So fill container will mean that whatever the size of the box is, the button, the text inside it will wrap, or will wrap to that size. So button is a big button. If I write this much, and if I have it set to fill container, if I shrink it down, it will shrink. The text will go to the next line as I shrink it down. Okay, but this doesn't happen in fixed width or hug contains, right? So this is the difference between these three options. I'll not go in depth on these three, but yeah, this is some basic that you can take away from it. Okay, now I will be changing it to hug contents, and this to fill container or hug contents as well. All right, and this again. So you'll have to manage a few things. So now that I have a structure of the button, I'll link it to a text style. I'll link it, say I want a big button. So I'll link it to this 16 text size. Also the medium one. Okay, and then I'll link it to a fill. I'll add a fill in the background. So if I select the frame, I'll add a fill in the background. So blue is my primary color. This is my fill, and I'll give this button color, this gray 100. Okay. So this is my button. I am done with the button, and now I'll give it a border corner radius of 4 or 8, whatever you like to use, right? So this is how I have defined the button. All right. I'll take it into the different files so as to avoid repetition over here. I'll take it here, and then I'll define it as a component. Okay, so this is my component defined as a button. I'll rename it. I'll name it button slash primary slash large. All right, so this is what I have done, and I'll not show you how to define 10 types of different buttons. I'll only show you 2, and I'll show you how to attach a logic to it. So now I have duplicated it. I have made an instance of it. So whatever I change in this button here, it will change in the other button as well. So I'm associating a different color because this file doesn't have the same styles. Okay, so you can see that this button, the parent button, whatever changes I make in it are being reflected in my child button. So if I change the gray here to this gray, it will also reflect in here. But if I change something here, it won't reflect back into the parent button. Okay, any questions? See, I have, so we have, you don't create a design system for new projects. If you create a design system, you make it because you have a lot of projects and you want to use them for all the projects. But a component library is something that I create new for every project for the requirement and look and feel of that project. Okay, so in this case, I would like to have a better left and right padding. Okay, so once I've done that, what I'll do is I'll detach it from the parent by right clicking and clicking on Control Alt B or detach instance by right clicking, whichever suits you best. Once I've done that, I'll change its style a bit. Okay, so I'll change its style to a border. I'll remove the fill and I'll make the button text also blue. So this can be my secondary button. Okay, and let me just adjust the border. I'll change it to 8. Corner radius, sorry. I'll change it to secondary button and large variant. Okay, and now I'll create a component out of it as well. So if you have 2 similar components, you can group them as variants by selecting them both and combining them as variants, and then you can give them names. So type of the button, and then you have the size of the button if we have to introduce smaller size. Okay, and yeah, this is done, but I'll show you how you can add an on off logic to your button. So the same as I have added it here. So if I go here and if I call out any button, so you see that this is the on off logic or switch logic that I've given to icons. You can give it to almost anything. All you have to do is go to the property name, and so I want to attach it to a property that the button is primary or not. So if it is primary, I will say on or true. On and off and true and false, I mean, they mean the same thing here. I'll have to check if I'm right, and I'll give it false here. Okay, so now the button is defined in the assets panel. Asset, oh sorry, I'll have to type in button. I'll call out the button, and then you can see there is a logic between primary and secondary. So this is the on-off logic that you can use in any of your designs and any of the properties of a button later on, right? So how do you manage template for creating login form with my very for 2 or 3 text fields? So how do you adjust that using components, right? How crucial is design system for freelancer? I don't think it is very important for freelancer, but you need to have some set principles that whenever you get a new project, you are ready to go. You don't have to spend a lot of time creating components from scratch. You can edit those components, obviously, but I would suggest that you set a system for yourself instead of a design system. A system in the sense that you have a working knowledge of how to create buttons and text hierarchy that you can take into every design, and just change these colors according to the primary palette and the secondary palette, and we good to go with start with designs. So I use this text hierarchy in a lot of my designs, and this has really helped me to think about better as focus on bigger things like usability, the UX flows, the task flows, and creating wireframes. And creating wireframes, when you create wireframes, then you realize that okay, I have these components, I'll just have to mix and match them to create a design. So that is the freedom that you get after creating. Can you talk about that again? Okay, I'll talk about how do you manage templates. So it has something to do with variants. Okay, so I'll just show you how I created variants. I'll show you it in a different form now. Okay, so I want that in some forms, I want to create the primary button first and the secondary button later, and vice versa. Okay, So what I'll do is I'll just duplicate this button, okay, and I'll just change it to secondary and group them. Sorry, not group them, create a component out of them. Okay, so this is a component of component. So we are coming on to the organism or the molecule as, so this button is a molecule. Now this group of two buttons is basically your organism. Okay, so what you can do is add an auto layout in it as well. Add auto layout to everything that you do. Okay, and fill container. So whatever size it will increase to, the buttons will be of equal width. Okay, so now this is the component, and I will rename it to button group slash primary, and so I'll name it primary plus secondary. So whichever comes first. This is just for demonstration. This is not a use case that you will come across. Okay, and then I'll duplicate it. I'll detach it from the parent. I'll detach it from the parent. You don't even need to detach it, or what you can do is you can just switch it wherever you use it. Okay, but just for the purpose of demonstration, I'll detach it from the parent, and then I'll make the first button a secondary button, and the second one a primary button, and then I'll change the naming of it. Okay, so I'll change it to say secondary plus primary instead of, so what comes first is first in naming. Okay, and then I'll create a component out of it. This is a very this is a very not required thing in a component library, but I'll show it for the purpose of demonstration. So you have them as same name, so the base is same. So button group slash something else. So the base of these is same. Now you can combine them as variants. Okay, so whatever you have after the slash, so however many slashes you have, Figma creates properties out of them. Okay, so property one is, so this is the order. So if you want to add a switch logic, so I will say primary first, and I'll add true and false here. True, so you can play along with it, play around with it, no matter how you want. True, and here is false. Okay, so this is how we do it. And if I have to call it in my design, so I'll type in button, so you can see button group is there, and then since it is a variant, I can switch it between these two. And one more thing you can do with it is, you can, I won't go into it, you can create an animation also. I'm an atom. You could even use this component cloner. It is used, so open sourcing helps them variant and property. So variant are two variations, and property is how you separate them. So so if you see here, all my buttons that I have created, these are all the buttons that I have created. So these have different logics. Okay, so to attach logic with variants, there are properties, so that you can easily work around with them. So this is something that is used in development also. I'll talk about it if in the next few sessions, if I get to do them in the next few weeks, right? So yeah, and another question is that why do they keep it public? Okay, they don't keep it public, they don't have the code, they just have the documentation. And by making it public, they are able to identify their bugs faster, and they are able to iterate faster. That if there's a team of 10 people working on it, they might use it only for a certain use case that is used in the company. But if it is tested by a lot of other people also, so this is why I have made this file public, because I wanted a lot of feedback from people, which I think didn't happen, and I got some feedback which I have implemented in this. And it just helps them to scale their design systems faster, and also bring in loop developers who are not actively working with them. So feedback and open sourcing is something that boosts your progress much more. It gives you exponential progress or exponential gains in terms of having a design system. And also, if you share something to the public, they might have their inputs, you might be able to improve a lot of things after that. Okay, so I have created this button. Now I'll just be, I think we are about right on time of 1 hour. I'll just show you how to create a text field using an auto layout. I'll not go in very depth, I'll just show you how you can use auto layout to create a responsive component. Okay, so let us see what all are elements required in a text field. Okay, so let us see what all the elements are. So I'll make a different type of text field here and create some variants out of it. So one is icon, one is text, one is the background that we have, and another one is this text that I have hidden here, which is for error. So I can hide it in some cases, I can bring it back in some other cases. Okay, so let us create a text field. Okay, what all are the elements required? As I told you, we'll be using shapeless design. Okay, so as I told you about defining different components, so I have defined some icons at this hierarchy level. So here are some icons. I have defined them as icon slash its name, and then you can use it inside any of the components. So why I have done this is because if I use it inside any other component, I can switch it with any other icon that I have. Otherwise, I'll have to manually do it. Okay. Let us create a text field. Let us write some text first. So placeholder. Yeah, let me just zoom in. This is a placeholder text. I want it to be of 16 regular here. This is my text field text, and I want the placeholder text to be a bit of gray color, right? So this is why I have 6 colors, as someone asked. And now I want an icon. I can use any icon for now. I will use this icon for password fields. Include this in any all the text fields and call it out at whatever stage you want. And this icon of account. So I have these 3 elements set, and now what I will do is I will also have another text, which is my error text. I will not use it right now in the auto layout. Okay, I'll add it on the top of the existing auto layout. I will make it a bit thicker because it is smaller, and then I'll make it red in color. I have my red color. So now I have to make a text field out of it. Select these 3 elements. Go to, I think, yeah, press Shift and A if auto layout doesn't show up on the right hand side, and then add some margin. So as we decided that we'll keep it at 8. Okay, so I'm not going to keep it at 8 from all this. Yeah, just keep it at 8 from all sides. Give it a background. Okay, give it a background like this, a lighter gray background, and you see that these it has already introduced some margin or spacing between them. I don't want spacing. I just want spacing of 8. Okay, now it has fit. Okay, so now if I increase its size, you can see it is not responding to the changes. So what is happening is that this text is set to hug content. So whatever the size of this text would be, it will stick to that size only. And you can see that here although I have used auto layout, it is not, this icon is not sticking to the right. So what I can do in this case is that I can make this text placeholder extend to whatever width is possible, and these two as fixed width. Okay, so I'll reduce its size a bit. 16, I'll use it as 16. So you can see it has stuck to the top. I don't want it to stick to the top, so I'll use this alignment option. And now if I increase the size of this container, you can see it is sticking to the right, and this text field is increasing its width to whatever size I am increasing it to. So this is the first layer. And now I have to add an error text. So I'll select this frame 1, I'll select the frame 2, and I'll again add an auto layout. Okay, so what it does is it has placed this text field. I'll change it to fill container. I'll not be able to go a lot in depth here because it is a very complex topic. And then I'll change this error text to also fill the container size that it has. And between these two, I'll give a spacing of 4. Okay, so this is a text field that I have just completed using very simple steps. And yeah, this is how you create it. And this is how I created a text field, and I'll now name it. I'll use it in the other file that I have. So now that I have come to the other file, what I can do is I can change this to, say, a different color. I'll change it to the grays that I have in this file. I'll change these two icons to the colors that I have in this file, this color, and error text to the red that I have in this file. Okay, and now I'll name it as text field / empty. Okay, and I'll create a component and I'll duplicate it, detach its instance, and then I'll create a field state of it. I'll change the placeholder text to some dummy type gmail.com, and then I'll change the color, since if it is filled I want to convey that this is a field, and I will remove these errors. I'll click on 00, it will make it 0 opacity, but it will not delete it from the component. This one is filled, and now I'll define it as a component also, and then combine them as variants on the top. Property 1, change it to filled if it is true or false. So this is false, this is true. Done. Now if we use it, text field. So if you use this will be the master component. This will be the instance that you drag from your assets, and you can see that it is reacting to all the size changes. And if I want, I can easily change it to whatever state I have. One tip here that I would like to give is, if you see that when you are switching between states and your text is going back to the original master state, the issue is that you have your layer names of this text set to different names. Okay, so if I change this to, so you can see if I have it at gmail.com, if I change the layer name here to placeholder, right? So if I switch between them, I'll have to change it over here as well. Okay, so let me just show you how it will work. Now that I have these both text layers as placeholder naming, what will happen is, if I change the text to naming and if I switch the states, you'll be able to see that the text inside is not changing. In the other scenario in which I had the different names, you will see if I change the layer text to in one of the states to anything, if I then switch it, you can see that I don't know what happened there, but it doesn't usually. Yeah, okay. Let me change the layer name here. So Gmail, right? If I now change it, there is an error, I think. Yeah, I think I fixed it by mistake. So I have I have failed successfully here. So this is how you create a text field. I have told you how to create a button group, and now similarly you can create bigger components out of using these components. So this is all that I have for today, and there are some plugins that you can use. Okay, so DesignLint is one of my favorite plugins. If you run it, okay, so if you select all these frames, if I select all these frames, and if I run the DesignLint plugin, it will tell me exactly where I don't have a text style attached and exactly where I don't have a color style attached. So it is like a sanity check. So in this text field, it is saying that this frame doesn't have a right border. So it sometimes tell you these unnecessary things, but you can anyway. So in this one, in some cases, you also have to define a border, corner radius, which you can, then again later on edit once, but in this case you don't require it. So if you run this plugin, you'll be able to do a sanity check on your designs and also correct any errors that you have in your design. So yeah, I hope this was informative for you guys, and you'll be able to create bigger components out of these ideas. I'll just stop my screen sharing. I think we are right on time.
Yeah, Karan.
Yeah, any questions?
I think we got one question.
Okay. If the client or stockholder is not having any specific color font preference, how do you pick the right? So see, if it depends. I'll share there is a typography artist on Twitter. He showed me, he posted his Excel sheet. So he was deciding on everything, that how much kerning is there, how much line height is there that you can do, and depends on the brand also. So if you're designing for a brand like a fashion brand, then it would be more stylish. If you're defining it for a official brand, then it will be more subtle. So you can go to Google Fonts, that is an open source library. You will be able to find a lot of these fonts there. Cross because specifically Android has their own different size classes. I think you can do a bit of research and define it for different, if you start defining it for different screen size, then you'll not be able to complete it ever. So you have to take the best of both worlds and then define. That is what I use, the convention that I use usually. Right. Any more questions? I think more questions are coming in. Okay. Yeah. You're welcome. Yeah. Anything that you would like to have some feedback on, just write it in the chat. I think we'll be staying here for around 3-4 minutes more.
Yeah.
So, just wanted to add a thought here. We don't all need to build design systems, first of all. There are hundreds and hundreds of resources community page already, and Karan is also a community contributor today, and he has pulled up that file because it is up on the community already, right?
Mm-hmm.
So not every one of us need to build a design system because that's the only way ahead. We can adopt systems, and especially if you're building for say something for the Play Store or something for the App Store, the iOS and the material design systems are already up, and you can just use them as it is.
Right.
The whole point of learning especially this session, is because you get the understand of using these systems, right? Like if you want to build some screen on your own, you get an idea about what these components are, what are the styles being used, and you can compose these together. So like Karan said in the beginning of this session as well, it probably took him 1 year to build an entire file, and he's taken it, I'm guessing he's taken it by use case, right? For example, today I want to build a login screen. So first you would have thought, okay, I need like a text placeholder field, like a label placeholder, and then a button placeholder, right? And tomorrow the next day he probably thought, okay, I need like a table in this page. And then he built the table. So nobody starts with, oh, this is the whole thing I want to build, so I'm going to make components for all. It's a long process if you, in case, want to build something.
Right.
So those were some of the closing thoughts I had. But if you guys want to add something more, you can, go ahead.
Yeah, and I think some of the design system have their code also available to view. Yeah. So people, if they are interested, they can check that. I think Marvel design system, they share their codes.
Yeah, there is a website I would share here. It's by the name of Design Systems Repo. All the open source design systems are on this website.
Yeah.
So if you want to refer to them at any point, you can refer to them, and some of them also have their Figma files actually.
Yeah.
So you can refer to them and start using them for your use case. So my use case was that I created a very very bad shopping app starting out my portfolio. So I wanted to show my thinking of design systems and component library on that project because I wasn't able to maintain it further. So I wanted to make changes, and it was not even no, I can't even begin to say how bad it was structured. So to give structure and explain my process around approaching a design is why I make this community file.
Yeah. And Karan, I think we have a last question from Poonam. Can you check once?
Yeah, just a second. Will you share the? Yeah, yeah, Poonam, I am scared of bringing my creativity color palette. So what you can do is, so I'll just share one thing here. Okay, so if you want to use your creativity, so just start by imitating. I would say I imitate a lot, and then I kind of diverge from that. Okay, so I'll just share my screen, and I'll show you how you can use it in a good way. Okay, and not copying exactly, but use it in a good way. So this is a platform. Yeah.
Steal like an artist.
I steal like an artist and then sell like a businessman, businesswoman, anyone. So if you go to this website, so I'll tell you that I have taken a lot of styles from this website. I really liked it. So right click on it, click on inspect. Okay, and if you have the time, you can just a second. It had all the colors available. I copied all the colors from this website. I think I don't see the colors. Wait a second, I'll just show you.
Yeah, it's there at the second last tab in the styles only.
in the styles.
Yeah, it was showing the code.
No, not the code. They had their entire color palette there.
Okay.
Okay, so entire color palette was visible there. So I
Mhm.
copied it from this website. So instead of defining it on my own, I copied it and then I diversified it for my use case. I'll share it with you. I am sure that I used it from this website. Let me just see if it works in Internet Explorer. Just a second. Yeah, Hopin. Hopin is the name of the platform. You can also right click on LinkedIn and it will show you all the colors. LinkedIn does something really cool. It has, I wasn't aware of the fact it has warm grays and it also has cool grays. So that is something I discovered that I found very cool. I think they have abstracted it. I think they've found out or something. Let me see. I think they still have it here. No, I don't find them here. Yeah. Anyway, if I find it, I'll definitely share it with you. So yeah, again, you can go to any website. You can right click and then see which color they are using, and then just use it in your designs to start off with. Right. So yeah, this was all that I have for today. I'll just share this presentation link. I'll share the presentation link in the chat. So anyone who wants to refer to the links that I referred to create it. Yeah, thank you so much, Puna.
Thanks so much, Karan. Thanks, Harsh. Just one last thing I wanted to say was experiment more with the current design systems that are already there. Like break them down and like add your own colors and use the plugins. The plugin page is the best part of all
Right.
this thing.
Yeah.
And when you like do this reverse engineering, you'll be confident enough to build stuff on your own. So yeah, that's how we figured out things as well. At least I did the same way. So
Right.
yeah. Thanks a lot, Karan. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you, Karan.
Yeah, I've
Thank you. It
shared
was a
in
very
the chat the presentation link. Okay.
Yeah, I think people got it. I think this was a very good session.
Oh,
Sure,
and
sure.
guys, go on YouTube and check Karan's other videos.
Yeah.
He's done a lot of research.
Karan, if you can share your YouTube link here so that people.
Sure. I'll do that.
Oh,
Yeah.
people are from Sri Lanka also. Nice.
Yeah, good international audience. Great.
Yeah.
Yeah, and one more thing, if you can reach out to me, I am starting a small series, which I will, which is called Fix My Design. So if you send me your designs, I'll try to fix them. And so if you share your Figma file link with me, I'll download it and I'll try to fix your designs in terms of its UI. So I have all my links, so you can reach out to me on Instagram and any other LinkedIn platform. Karan Kapoor UX or KK UX is what you will find. And you can send me your Figma file links and I'll try to fix them from my perspective and share a video of how I fix it. Okay.
Awesome, Karan.
Awesome.
I mean, it's great that you're doing that for free, but I think you should start monetizing it going ahead.
See, I am. Yeah, sure. I'll do that, but I'm trying to experiment a bit right now.
Yeah. I think, Karan, we got one link. Someone has created a Figma when the session was going on. You can check on the chat.
Okay. Created in some. Oh, great. Something in parallel. Yeah, I'll check it out. You can reach out to me on any of the platforms, and then
you got your first initiative here itself.
Sure. Great.
Cool.
Sure. You can. Yeah. Thank you so much, everyone. Thank you, Harsh. Thank you, Pranav. And
thank you, Karan. Thank you.
Hope to do more of these sessions in the future.
Sure. Yeah.
Yep.
Thank you so much. Everyone, have a great day. A great week ahead. Thank you.
Thanks, everyone. Bye.
Thank you. Bye, guys.
Bye.